Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this segment, I want to have a chat with a retired Major General who has been bold enough to write a memoir of how he moved from being a herder from age 6 to become a general in the Nigerian Army. The title of the book is Boots, Dust, and Destiny, My Journey from a Herdsman to a General. So I'm welcoming for the first time General Abubakar Adamu, who was the commander of the Nigerian Cyber Warfare Command. General, good to have you on Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. I've been reading your book, and it's quite an exciting read. You write so well that I feel jealous as a journalist. Very well written, and just like the former Chief of Staff, General Farouk Yahaya, said, you showed quite a bit of courage and a lot of integrity while you were in service and also in this book. So it's an excellent read, I must say that. But I wanted to open the conversation. You are an herder. I read a story when your father gave you the staff when you were 6. Not much of instructions, and how you also describe what your mother did. Your mother gave you the blessing and even told you that, well, hey, don't let them go astray. Very important story. Now, you moved all the way as an elder, you became a general. So I wanted to ask you, what's your take? How do you read the debate that has been going on in this country for years about open grazing? Let's start like that.
Thank you very much. Very good question. It's a natural thing for any Fulani man, to be given, responsibility as a young man to take care of cattle, because that is what you are born to meet.
To do, yeah.
And the debate is quite interesting. One of our problems in this part of the world is that we generally speak from sentiment, and also we have our own biases and perception. Yeah. We don't look at things from the real, point of view. Over time, not only Nigeria, the world over, countries are growing, infrastructure is growing, and people are now, the population has grown.
Yeah. And
you look at, in those days, there were a lot of space, there were a lot of, land, and open space for people to do whatever they have.
To do. Yeah.
But nowadays, population is growing, infrastructure is growing. And then government have been doing a lot of investment in various infrastructure. You constructing, roads, airports, and also you've been making subsidies for fertilizers, for farmers and what have you.
Right.
But if you look at it, we've neglected the aspect of livestock. And generally, honestly speaking, people are very sentimental. You construct markets, stalls, you construct Wuse market and what have you. But generally, you look at this little or no investment in terms of livestock. So what has happened over the years is that the people that have been grazing livestock find it highly constrained, either due to population growth, due to also desertification, because people that are having livestock, you cannot have your livestock and stay and see them dying. So they move to find greener pastures. So I think what has happened over there is there's so much neglect in that sector. And many countries, you look at what Argentina and Brazil have done with livestock.
Yeah.
Even
quite significant.
Let me tell you,
raises a lot of money from livestock more.
Let me tell you, even Niger is doing quite well. As I'm speaking to you now, most of us during the Eid al-Kabir period, that is during the layer period, we import most of our rams from Niger. They're doing a lot. They are supporting their livestock a lot. But I think in Nigeria, I don't really know what happened. We are very sentimental.
Right.
And also, generally people look at things from historical grievances instead of being realistic. And then to be very honest, the livestock is not only limited to Fulani anyway, because generally when people speak at lighthouse, it is like, oh, this is only it's only a Fulani affair.
Yeah.
You can go to livestock. Many people have gone into livestock. I think what we really need to do is to look at things critically, so that we can solve our problems, so that we can maximize the benefits for everybody.
Yeah.
Instead of us looking at it from our own bias and also.
But don't you think that part of, by the way, this government has now set up a ministry for livestock development? My view is that, look, you don't really need a ministry, to do it. You just need to get it done whichever way. But hey, they've done a ministry. That's fine. Do you think that it is going to be accepted by most of the people that are doing grazing to ranch? And do you accept ranching as a better option to raise livestock?
Oh, great. Honestly, ranching is the best option. But the challenge is that many people are going to have ranching is the ability to do the ranching. It is very expensive. So that is why I'm saying that if people want to go into ranching, there should be support. People should be supported. As a retired general, honestly, I cannot afford ranching. Even though, I still have, even though naturally in Mambila Plateau, where I come from, we've been practicing ranching for years because we've not been moving around. So, but I can tell you, ranching is very expensive. Because in Nigeria also we find it very difficult to produce various what do you call them now, the foods that the animals need. Very few companies do it, and they are very expensive. So for you to do ranching, you need government support. The people need loans, revolving loans, like any other one, like any other business. And the only way we can go into, honestly, ranching is
the way to go.
Is the way to go.
I remember that when during the Buhari or Shibajo time, when I served as presidential spokesperson, there was the National Livestock Transformation Plan, on a program which was actively negotiated among the governors, especially those in the north, where we had a lot of the tension, and now this government has done, taking it forward by saying that, look, let's have a livestock ministry. So I imagine, because in that plan that I speak about, all these things are detailed. They are how to help people who are doing grazing, how to transition them into ranching in a way that they get the help that they need. So I'm hoping, that the livestock ministry will move in that direction. Have you seen any kind of a movement with the new livestock ministry in that direction?
Honestly, the livestock ministry is one of the best the government have done. But, in Nigeria, I think we do more of a talking than
for everything.
Yes. I'm somebody who, I'm not a routine person. Somebody who believes in innovation. I think we do a lot of talking. I think we should, once a ministry is established or any department of paracetamol, we should we should go down to the level and, convince people, do a lot of practical things instead of, staying in Abuja and, rolling out programs, having conferences in air conditioned room. I think that's the biggest challenge we're having, not only in the Ministry of Livestock. I think generally in Nigeria, we should reduce the top show and then go to in practical terms.
Talk and do some action.
Action, yes.
Okay, let's move along. There's a portion of your book that I found quite very interesting, and the reason for that is because from the outside, people are saying that, look, we are spending a lot of money on the military and the security agencies for decade, for over a decade at least. The highest portion of the Nigerian budget has been on the security, a good part of it on the military. So people from the outside are saying that You guys give us some value. But in your book, you raised a very important point, which I found quite insightful and very helpful to the national debate. You said that there are a lot of things that are even going on from the inside. And I want to read, a portion of your book where you talked about procurement battles. You call it procurement battles and politics of supply. I'll read 3 paragraphs. It said, during my years at Army headquarters, one refrain echoed across every briefing is, and you quote, "We need weapons and we need them now." The Nigerian Army was engaged in one of the most complex internal conflicts in its history. Yet the procurement of arms, ammunition, vehicles, and communications meant to sustain it was choked, erratic, and often sabotaged by politics. He said each delay cost lives. The supply chain meant to sustain operations had turned into a labyrinth of paperwork and personal interest. He said contracts were awarded through patronage rather than performance. Quality became negotiable and timelines an afterthought. In the trenches, soldiers bore the costs. Their courage never faltered, but their confidence in the system did. I'll read one more paragraph and then I'll pose the question to you. One incident near Burma remains vivid. This is what you recall. It said a convoy was ambushed and the troops fought until their ammunition ran out. Reinforcements arrived to find rifles jammed, vehicles stalled, and radios silent. Their bravery was unquestionable. It was the system that failed them. This is a very compelling narration, Major General retired Adamu, that you gave. And first of all, I must commend your honesty and the courage to bring out this kind of issue. Well, how do you compare that insight that you brought from the inside to the view of many Nigerians that we are spending a lot of money on security and we are still dealing with debt, destruction, and tears?
Now, you see, how much is the money? If you look at it, actually.
Okay.
Just look at it.
It's still the highest chunk of the budget.
But how much is it?
Now,
let me tell you the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Is that any country that is not producing its weapons fall into this category. Because you look at...
That's a very important point.
So over the years, we've been relying and depending on other countries to supply those with arms and ammo. You look at Pakistan and India, we started at the same time. Today, why are people going to negotiate in Pakistan? Why is Pakistan a power? Do you think that if Pakistan was not a nuclear power or was not producing weapons, they could sit down and start negotiating with some powerful countries? So in essence, is that whatever amount of money you budget for an institution, if that institution is going to now go and meet a third party to bring or procure that equipment, look, you are at the mercy of somebody.
And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means that Nigeria will win. My name is Laolu Akonde. Thank you for watching. And by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.